there, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Pastatime with the Scariest Podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
Together we make the Scariest Podcast.
I guess we do. I mean, we make it at the same time. I feel like you, the listener and viewer, are the ones who actually make the Scariest Podcast.
That's a good point. But we're the ones that record it, so hello.
Indeed.
So Pastatimes is what this episode is. Adam's gonna... Wait, do you want to tell us what Pastatime is?
Sure.
Okay.
You're doing a bang-up job, so I'll just take over.
You're welcome.
Pastatimes.
Wait, you didn't even say thank you. No. Okay. You go.
Did you want me to do this
No.
not?
Go.
Jesus. Pastatimes are the episodes where we go and read fictional short stories from the internet communities, including our own. Stuff like the SCP Foundation, Creepypasta, Reddit, anywhere else you might find some sort of a short story, horror-specific genre stuff. And, of course, the stuff that gets sent to us, which I should note we have 2 of this episode. So we're going to be reading 4 creepypastas. 2 of them came, they are original from our audience, so thank you so much to those of you who sent those in. If you have a story that is fictional that you would like to send our way so that we can read it on the show, please email pastatime@scarish.com. Robin, I don't know what to kick to you for Pastatimes. We usually just go straight into them.
Yeah. Who do you want to read first?
I mean, I can go ahead and read first. I don't mind.
All right.
So I'll be the first on this episode. This first creepypasta that we're going to read is from the wonderful Spooky Friends community, and it is from Amber. And it starts out like this. There's a note before the story letting us know this is a story I wrote back in high school. I sent it to the Discord a while ago, but if you would like to, you may read it on the podcast for Pastatime as well. So that's exactly what we're going to do. The story's name is The Silver Chain, which sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
It goes like this.
Are there werewolves?
Are there what?
Are there werewolves? The Silver Chain.
Werewolves. They said wearables, but you're like drunk already, like werewolves.
I mean, the Silver Chain is probably a wearable.
A silver chain, it almost sounds like the Unbroken Chain. That's something from you're not going to get that. That's
is that a Wheel of Time?
Oh, that's an Adventure Zone reference. Okay, let's just keep going. Or start. Start would be good. Starts out like this. A few years ago, I met this girl in one of my classes. She was new that year and started a few weeks late. No one talked to her, and I thought I'd give her a chance, so I walked up to her one day before class and asked for her name. She said it was Kelly. I told her my name, and we continued talking until the bell rang. Turns out I also shared lunch with her, so I sat by her and we talked through the whole lunch period, and eventually we grew close. After a week, I knew everything about her, except for one thing. You see, Kelly wore this silver chain on her wrist every day. It was bare, and I was confused why she didn't add charms or anything. When I asked her, she responded by saying that she, quote, would get a few soon, and left it at that. I asked her every other day, and the answer was always the same. One day, I brought her a charm. She gratefully took it, but clipped it onto her backpack. I decided to stop asking for the time being. Instead, I tried to get her to befriend my friends, but she didn't talk or hang out with anyone except me.
I feel like this is going to turn out to be like, have you ever heard of that story where the girl had a ribbon around her neck her entire life, and she got married, and her husband kept asking her, like, what's that ribbon around your neck? And then I guess she is on her deathbed or something, and she tells her husband, like, okay, you can take the ribbon off my neck, and he removes the ribbon, and her head falls off.
Yeah, I think I actually have heard that story.
Yeah, so it's like, I feel this is giving me that kind of vibe.
So if her hand falls off, Robin is right. All right, let's keep going. A week or so later, I asked if she wanted to hang out at my house, but she said no. The next day, she asked me if I wanted to hang out at her house instead. I thought it was weird, but I agreed, so after class, we walked to her house. I noticed that on the front lawn was a for sale sign. It had been a couple weeks since they moved here, so I would have expected it to have been taken down by now. Upon entering the house, I noticed how clean the house was. They didn't seem to have many possessions either, but that wasn't the weirdest thing. I met Kelly's father, and as he raised his hand and waved at me, I saw a silver chain on his wrist, and it was filled with colorful glass marbles clipped to the chains of the bracelet. There was no room left for more, but what was more disturbing was her mother's 2 silver chains that hung on each wrist, one completely filled with about 20 marbles and the other over halfway filled. She brought me upstairs to her room where I saw her brother. His bracelet had around 5 marbles.
Oh, God. Okay.
Once we had gotten into Kelly's room, I turned to her and asked what the marble charms meant. She stopped in her tracks and turned around to look at me. She replied saying that it was a tradition. Everyone was given a silver chain bracelet, and as they went on with their lives, they would add the marbles with every achievement. This explained to me why her parents had so many compared to her. It still unsettled me how she spoke about the achievements. I was almost afraid to ask any more questions.
If you murder a person, you get a marble.
After a couple of hours, my mom came to pick me up and bring me home. The next day, Kelly wasn't at school. Throughout the day, I wondered what was going on with her. She was completely fine only yesterday, so she shouldn't be sick. If she had an appointment, she would have missed a few classes, but not a full day. Even then, she would have asked me to collect her homework. On the way home, I happened to pass her house. That's when I noticed a moving truck outside the house. In there must be the rest of the family stuff from when they moved. It seemed a little late for it to be arriving now. I continued the rest of the way home, not thinking about it too much. The next day, it was the weekend, and it went by as fast as it came. On Monday, Kelly was there, and she approached me in the morning with an uncanny smile on her face.
Time to murder.
I wonder why she was smiling, but I looked down at her wrist to see 7 glass marble charms on the chain.
They killed that whole family that just moved in on that moving truck. 100. It's gotta be.
I hugged and congratulated her on her achievements, no matter how uneasy I was. She jumped up and down in excitement and went on saying how she wanted as many as her mother had. I told her she could do it and encouraged her to keep going. The bell rang before I could ask her what she did. She simply walked off with a smile and wave of her hand, glass marbles clinking together. At lunch, she was nowhere to be seen. My unease began to grow. The day went on, and as I left school, I noticed several parents waiting in the parking lot for their kids, much more than normal. Mothers shuffled their children into cars and locked the door and drove away fast.
It's because a whole family got murdered.
One of those mothers was my own. I counted around 5 police officers around the block. Once I got into the car, I turned to my mom and asked what was going on. Keeping her eyes on the road, she told me that a mother, father, and their 5 children had been murdered over the weekend. The police were looking for the murderer, but I already knew she was long gone.
I fucking called it.
The end. Yeah, you predict like 9 million things throughout stories. So as the story starts to unveil, Robin's like, oh, I think this is about to happen. Yeah, no shit. We all picked up on that around the same time. But yes, indeed, the little kid murdered 7 people somehow. With the aid, I'm guessing, of her family, because, hey, family, as Dom Toretto always says.
Oh my god. You know his last name?
Oh, fuck, I've seen like 6 of the fucking movies. Of course I know his last name.
6 of the Fast and the Furious
I've actually only seen 2. And actually 3. No, 3. And I don't like the Fast and the Furious series, so.
I've seen 0.
Congratulations.
I've never seen any Fast and the Furious.
You've seen enough memes over the last week or so that it's like you've seen a whole movie, because every time I see these stupid fucking family memes, I always have to show them to Robin because she gets so
All
annoyed.
I know is that Fast and the Furious is about jumping cars over crazy things that should not be able to be jumped over, and family.
That is certainly what it's about now. But I will say shout out to Amber. I very much enjoyed your story. Thank you for sending it to us and allowing us to read it on the show. We sincerely appreciate it. And a quick reminder, if any of you have a story like this that you would like to hear read on the show, please email pastatime@scarish.com.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept for a story.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It really makes me wonder more about the family. I'm more interested in the murderers than anyone else. I want to hear more about, like, I don't know, is the marble the soul of the person they killed, or do they just have a big box of fucking murder marbles lying around their house, like, just waiting to distribute if they do something well? Is it just the family, or is it, like, a bigger part of the family?
It sounds like it's like a cult.
Yeah, I have
thing.
Lots of questions,
Yeah.
so perhaps you'll write a follow-up, because I definitely would love to read it.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. Good way to start the show.
All right, so I'm going to read the next story here. It is submitted by one of our spooky friends. So I'm really excited to read it. It's going to be new to me. I haven't read it yet. So it's just like story time, just for pastas, right? So it goes. It's titled Flowers to the Soul. It goes, have you ever felt that something in your life was a gateway or somehow attached to your soul? Well, here's my story of just that. It all started when I was about 2 or 3. I was sleeping in my bedroom. A perfect girly girl bedroom with flower wallpaper and a purple closet door with flowers my mom painted to match the rest of my room. That door sounds exactly like the room from Monsters, Inc. One night, I remember waking up to the sound of my closet door slowly creaking open. I was young, so I can't really tell you what I saw was real, but what I do remember was that this serpentine figure slowly moving between my closet door and the frame. It had 6 legs, but the body of a snake and terrible bulging eyes that darted constantly, like it was always looking to make sure no one but me saw it. It clung to my closet door frame and just stared at me. I was frozen, and I didn't know what to do, so I screamed. For the next year, I remember seeing this terrifying creature often. It would crawl or scurry out of my closet every night and stare at me until I screamed for my parents.
That's terrifying enough as it is. Doesn't have to be a snake or anything, but having something come out of your closet and just like stare at you with bulging eyes is creepy.
It sounds like Randall from Monsters, Inc. The purple snake from Monsters, Inc.
I know
That's
what you're
the bad
talking
guy.
about, but that's not at all what I'm picturing.
Okay, that's what I'm picturing. He's trying to collect your screams into a canister.
I'm picturing like Voldemort's spirit from the first Harry Potter movie when he goes into the Dark Forest. Like that sort of type of like slithering out of the closet, and then except you can actually see eyes on it.
All right. This was a nightly occurrence, a time I remember vividly as being stressful for my parents. Near the end of that year, I started having the quote-unquote dreams. They were always so peaceful, maybe a way to escape the nightmare I was experiencing during my waking hours. I remember vaguely in these dreams there was always a being, a creature, or an angel that always kept me safe. In these dreams, I always felt that this thing protecting me was more afraid for protecting me than it was of the creature haunting me. Being in these dreams was like being enveloped in a fluffy blanket or a giant's hug.
I will say a giant's hug doesn't sound that comforting to me. I feel like you'd be squeezed to death.
While I knew subconsciously that this dream creature came from the same world my monster came from, I was never afraid of it. During the time frame that I had these dreams, I was happy. I was laughing again, a normal young girl, and the monster wasn't around anymore. By the time I was about 5, the nice warm fuzzy dreams had stopped and the monster started appearing again. Honestly, I barely remembered this serpentine centipede creature from my toddler years, but it never truly left me. That night, I heard my closet door creak open, and in the doorway was the monster. Now that I was a little older, I noticed things I missed before. When it would move, it would blend into the surroundings of my room, almost like a chameleon, camouflaging its skin to match my bedroom wallpaper or the flowers on my closet door. I started to hate those flowers. Dude, this is Randall from Monsters, Inc. 100%. Camouflage snake. This time, though, my parents thought it might be something more. I was becoming more adamant that I saw this creature every night, screaming for them to help me. My parents were really worried about me and got me into therapy. The therapist never actually listened to me, and she just wanted to make sure she made my parents happy, so she put me on some sort of medication. I won't lie, whatever it was, helped. I didn't have those nice, fuzzy, comforting dreams still, but I also slept so deeply I didn't see the terrible monster creeping through my closet door anymore. At the age of 7, we moved to a new house, and my parents had the therapist slowly get me off of my meds. The new house was great. I had an awesome room in the loft with a double-wide closet with those weird shutter-style accordion doors and green wallpaper. No more flowers. There was a window on the outside wall of the house that let me see the whole neighborhood, and I had a wonderful view of the night sky. When I started school that year, no one wanted to be my friend since I was new and quote-unquote weird. Everyone loves weird people. I don't know. I think
it's like when you're new, you're different. So some people just treat you like you're weird, but realistically, you could have all the same interests that they do, and they just suck. So
I constantly talked about the monster in my closet and the friend I met in my dreams that saved me.
I mean, yeah, okay, that's weird. Being that outspoken in your new school, yeah, that might not draw people to you, but hey, I'd be your friend.
No one, I mean, you say that, but if somebody said that shit in front of you, would you actually be like,
probably.
Oh, no way, dude, that's so cool?
Well, they're 7, right?
No,
yeah.
Oh, well, are they 7?
The age of 7, we
yeah,
moved to a new house.
right.
They got a new school. That's around the same time I moved to a new school, so yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was the exact age I moved to a new school, in fact.
No one wanted to be friends with the kid who still believed in monsters and imaginary friends.
Whoa. I still believe in monsters and imaginary friends, and I'm 36, okay?
But we do this for a living.
Exactly. We don't, actually. This is our
no,
side gig,
that's
so
true. That's
we
true.
do not do this for a living.
But since I wasn't seeing the monster or waking up in the middle of the night screaming anymore, my parents weren't too worried. And with my difficulties making friends, my mom decided she would buy me a fish, which I named Nemo because he was orange and I was 7.
Whoa. Now it's really starting to connect the Pixar universe here.
He became my best friend. After about 3 months of living in this new house, poor Nemo died And that's when I started seeing it again. The monster. My closet doors would slowly creak open, and the monster would slowly slither its head and upper limbs through the door and just stare at me. Sometimes when it would move and blend in, I swear I could see those horrible flowers from my old closet door again. The nightmare was too real, and this time I had no fuzzy warm protector to save me. I didn't want to get back on meds, so I suffered silently for months, staring this thing in the eyes as it would sit right inside my closet opening, shifting between the terrible flower pattern of my old closet door and my new green bedroom wallpaper. Each night I prayed and hoped the protector of my dreams would come back for me. I wanted that sense of safety and warmth, but those dreams, my protector, never returned. It wasn't long before I broke down and my parents wanted to get me back in to see the therapist, but never did. I think my constant insistence that this thing was real and the sleepless nights for my screams is what tore my family apart.
Aww.
My parents started fighting constantly, which only made the terrible monster stronger. Or so I felt. It was almost as if it were somehow connected to my soul and preyed on me whenever I was at my weakest. I continued to see this monster and those damn flowers every night, but I wouldn't tell my parents, and I wouldn't scream. They still got divorced.
Aww.
For the next 12 years, I moved around to new places and new homes with my mom, always with the creature following, and always carrying the terrible flowers with it. Every time it shifted into the reality of my bedroom, I would see them, like it locked onto a part of my past, a part of my soul that I will never be able to forget. It sits there each night, waiting, wanting me to scream, like its job will not be complete without that final scream. I'm now 20, standing in front of the closet door in my dorm, waiting. This time, I'll be the one to push into its world, its soul, and make it scream.
Oh shit, taking the fight to the monster.
Yeah. I'm no longer the weak little girl it preyed on. I cannot stand to see those terrible flowers again. The ones that remind me of a time when my family was happy, before this creature ruined my life. Maybe if I can just push past and get to the other side, into its world, maybe I will find the fuzzy warm creature that made me feel happy. I will be the monster this time. Oh, and it's signed Boo.
So it is Monsters
So
Inc.
it is Monsters Inc.
This is almost like a retelling of Monsters Inc. if it was like super intense.
Yes. It's got, yes. O-M. O-M.
So
And
Robin
the big
picked
fuzzy,
up on it
the
really
big
quickly.
fuzzy monster is Sully. It's gotta be Sully.
Robin's so excited right
I
now.
am so excited. And the
The fish is Nemo.
yes, the
So
fish
it's
is
definitely
Nemo
a hint.
because it's a Pixar. What?
I love how loud Robin is talking now since she had her quiet
Oh
whisper
my
voice
God.
on earlier in the show. And now she's
Yeah.
super excited.
Yep, so I knew it. I knew that this thing had to be Randall.
This is a good pitch for the MIU, the Monsters Inc. universe,
Yep.
which we hope is coming
Yep.
soon to a theater near you.
100. Oh, yes.
I actually really enjoyed it.
I did enjoy this story. And that's, oh my, as soon as she described the door, this is also a story from Lisbetry, who is a frequent viewer of our streams. And thank you so much for the story because I freaking love Monsters Inc. And as soon as she described that door, I knew it. I freaking knew that it had to be, it was like just like Boo's door for Monsters Inc. Oh my God. Love it. 100.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for sending that in. We sincerely appreciate it. And I gotta say, a lot of the stories that we get from our listener/viewer base are better than a lot of the creepypastas we read elsewhere. So keep them coming. All right. Good stuff.
I just want to watch Monsters Inc. again.
We're gonna have to do that probably
Yeah.
tonight. Who
Well, I
knows?
mean, you haven't watched Monsters Inc. in what, over a
Long
decade
time.
or something?
Since like maybe a couple years after it came out when it came out on DVD. So good stuff. So before we move into our next story, we are going to take a really quick commercial break. And we're back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move into our next story of the show. This one's title is My Wife Won't Stop Sleep Talking. I have read this one in the past. I remember bits and pieces of it. I definitely remember how it ends. So starts out like this. My wife and I moved into our new apartment just a few months ago. Before this, we lived in a large cottage overlooking a beautiful lake. It was my wife's dream home for the 3 years we lived there. We didn't want to leave, but it was a necessary step for us. You see, Jessica and I used to live down south. Everything was going well for a while, but my law firm decided to promote me out of the blue. It was unexpected, which is what out of the blue means, but I couldn't have been more grateful. Unfortunately, the job entailed transferring to another one of our many branch locations. The one in question was in New England. We spoke long and hard on the matter, but eventually Jess agreed to the move. What? I didn't say that weird. You whisper in your stories, I say some things in weird ways.
You put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
I think I nailed it, actually. It continues. It's important to note that the dollar doesn't stretch as far up north as it does down south. It's also harder to find employment. That's why we were downgrading our living space. Until Jess could find another job, we would have to suffer. At least, that's the way she looked at it. Tensions were high the first few weeks after the move. I could tell Jess was irritable. She missed our old house, our old friends, and working a steady job. She had nothing to do with all of her free time, so she was bored out of her skull. This led to many fights. For a while, it seemed like we would never settle in. About a month after the move, things started looking up. Jess found temporary work as a part-time editor at the local TV station. She loved the work and couldn't have been happier with her coworkers. I couldn't have been happier for her. Everything seemed to be fine for a while. Not perfect, but fine. This was when the sleep talking began. It was to be expected, and honestly, I'm surprised it didn't start up sooner. You see, my wife is a restless sleeper whenever there's a big change in her life, good or bad. It happened when we got married, when we moved into our first home, and when she had the miscarriage. In parentheses, I'll touch more on that later. Jess knows she sleep talks because I used to bring it up from time to time. I would laugh each morning, recalling the weird things she said the night before. This always made her uncomfortable. She seemed to be embarrassed by it. That's why, after her first night of sleep talking in our new apartment, I didn't say anything.
I bet the sleep talking is going to be terrifying. Absolutely horrifying.
The sleep talking went on for a couple of weeks. It was at this time that Jess's temp job at the TV station came to an end. Without a job to keep her mind off of things, her nightly outbursts became much worse. She began screaming at odd times during the night, in which I would be forced to calm her down. One night, her screams turned into tears. As she was crying, she said something I'll never forget. I wish you were dead.
Who's she talking to?
I knew my wife was asleep, but as I sat there by her side, calming her the best I could, I felt the need to press the matter. You wish who were dead, hun? To my surprise, she responded, you. This caught me off guard. Really? This caught me off guard. It's a strange thing to want your husband dead, and even stranger while you're asleep. I mean, it is pretty common to want your husband dead when you're awake, from what I hear, but... Ow. Why? I asked. You're ruining my life. Man, this sounds like a conversation I've had.
I like that you're putting your own intonation to how she says it.
Well, she's sleeping. I'm trying to talk like I'm sleepy.
You could be whining and be like, you're ruining my life.
No one has that much emotion when they're sleeping. Those 4 words cut deep. Whether they were meant or merely the product of a tired mind, they were the kind of words that demanded self-reflection. I wondered for a moment if I truly was ruining her life, or at least if I were to blame for her night terrors. My wife remained silent for the rest of the night. I know this because I stayed up. Contemplation and worry kept me from a good night's rest. I didn't believe for a second that my wife really wanted me dead, but her late-night antics were certainly a cause for concern. Between the screaming episodes and the morbid dialogue, this was the worst her condition had ever been. The next morning, I came pretty darn close to telling her about what had happened. Okay, you should fucking have told her what had happened. But I kept thinking about how she'd react and what she had said. It was too much. I didn't want to burden her any more than I already had, especially after she had just been laid off. I also didn't want to have another fight. In light of this, I kept my mouth shut. I appreciate the fact that you justified why you didn't tell her. I still would have told her.
It was justified.
It was justified. We watched Scream 2, Timothy Olyphant's in that, and every time he killed someone, I was like, it was justified.
Because he's also in Justified, if you guys did not know.
Spoiler for who one of the killers is in Scream 2. It came out in like 1998, so if you're upset about it, eat shit. All right, I'm going to keep going.
What the fuck?
The following night, the screams were gone. This was a comfort, but a fleeting one. Out of the blue, just as I was about to shut my eyes and call it a night, the sleep talking commenced once again. Sometimes I think about how I do it.
Why do you make it sound like sexy?
It's not supposed to sound sexy.
How
If you're hearing it,
do it.
It's probably because your drink had so much vodka in it.
Everything sounds sexy.
I chalked this statement up to pure dream-induced nonsense, but then she continued, while you're asleep in bed, I'll get up and go to the kitchen. I didn't know what she was talking about, but as she kept speaking, it dawned on me. There were some moments of inaudible gibberish, but from the bits and pieces that were fluent, I could paint a pretty good picture of what she was describing. Reach into, grab knife, over and over again. Stop. Blood oozing off the bed. Can't ruin my life anymore. My wife was describing her plan to murder me. She's reading like that. As deeply unsettling as this was, I couldn't help but chuckle to myself. It was just a dream, after all, nothing more. I can't say I haven't done some weird things in my own dreams, things I would never do in real life. Jess was mad at me over the move, and she was working out her frustrations while she slept. At least that's what I convinced myself.
I would be so scared to sleep ever again.
Yeah. I would sleep in a different room that was bolted closed.
Yep.
The sleep talking continued for a few weeks. I hoped that Jess's midnight venting sessions were doing her some good, but without a degree in psychology, I couldn't be certain. All I could do was listen to her ramble about offing me each night and wait for her condition to run its course. Some things don't run their course, they just get worse. The longest her sleep talking had ever lasted was a month, so it was safe to say it would be over soon. A month passed. Then 2. Jess didn't let up. Every night it was the same routine, either incoherent nonsense or babblings about how she'd like to hurt me. It was getting old, but one night changed everything. As my wife slept, she uttered some words that tore right through my heart. I lost my baby because of you. My emotions swirled about and formed a sour concoction that rested in the pit of my stomach. This time, I had to know what she meant. What do you mean, hun? There was a brief moment of silence, but eventually Jess offered me an answer. There was some more gibberish mixed in, but she was able to get her point across. You made me want kids. You put life in me. And now I'm alone. This struck a nerve and caused a few tears to roll down my cheeks. It was my idea to have a kid. Jess never wanted children, but she made herself want them for me. That's why, after the miscarriage, I was surprised to find her absolutely devastated. I had no clue how much she'd warmed up to the idea of having a baby. My tears were interrupted by more sleep talking of the worst variety. I will kill you, I promise. That was the last thing she said all night. It's been roughly a week since my wife made that promise. As disturbing as that threat was, I could have easily brushed it off with the rest, assuming it was the product of stress and was nothing for me to worry about. Unfortunately, I can't stop worrying about it. Jess is scaring the crap out of me. I'm now taking short naps and sleeping with one eye open, and it's all because of one thing. Now she's sleepwalking.
Well, time to lock yourself in the room at night.
Time to talk to her about it, maybe. I would try talking to her about it since you've been not talking to her about it, and that didn't seem to work. Perhaps talking to her about the fact that she wants to murder you and all these repressed issues that you have going on is the way to go. Communication is key when it comes to preventing murders in someone's sleep. So, that was my second one. That was definitely a different turn. I don't remember the miscarriage thing, to be honest with you, when I was skimming through this. So there's definitely some stuff I skipped over. I remembered the ending for sure, but overall, though, I think it was a pretty good story.
It was a good story. It's scary. It's too real for me. But I mean, yeah, it's terrifying. Sleepwalking, the idea of sleepwalking and sleep talking can be very scary. Just because I watched way too much Paranormal Activity. I have had people sleep talk before, and sometimes it's hilarious.
Yeah, aside from the triggering content, I definitely relate to some parts of this, although not so much sleep talking as it is like sleep punching me in the face or sleep elbowing me in the face. No, it's worse. I'd rather you just talk. And then I can wake you up and be like, here's what you said. And you're like, oh, I don't mean that. And then I go back to sleep versus being shocked out of my sleep by an elbow hitting me in the face.
I've definitely punched almost everybody I've ever dated in the face.
That's a lot of people.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean, you dumb bitch? I had an instance where someone almost broke up with me that night, and because I swung my fist back, like just straight up, like punched him in the face, and he woke up, and I was like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "I can't do this," and it's just turned into a thing in the middle of the night.
It wasn't me.
It was not.
It could be me, but it wasn't me.
There was one time I did like a Mario punch, like straight up Mario punch in the face. That was not you that time.
That was me.
Oh, that I've done it to you too.
I call it the Ryu. The Hadouken.
Yeah, because I've done that. That must be one of the more common ones that I pull off then. Because I remember it wasn't with you, it was somebody else.
Good to know. Let's keep
when
going through the list here.
When I punched them in the face, I was having a kung fu dream, like a karate dream, where I was doing all these moves, and I punched, and it just happened to be punching them in the face. So it's dangerous, I guess, to sleep with me, because
I'm sure lots of people out there would risk it, though.
Well, I know my sister is just like, why do you always kick in your sleep? I'm like, I don't know.
She's a very violent sleeper, man. She sleeps with her joints pointed directly out, so they're in your ribs. Or
sometimes
I
sleep with my legs like up, like my knees up. They
fall down and they wind up in my ribs.
I have had dreams that I wake up from where I literally am kicking as I wake up. You know, so your legs in the air. Yeah, I'm sure that happens to a lot of people, because when your body's starting to wake up and stuff, you're just jerking, you know, because if you're in the middle of a movement in your dream and you wake up, it's just, you're doing that, you know.
Only ever had it happen to me like once or twice. I've woken up speaking before, maybe like 5 or 6 times. And I've been in an argument and I just woken up and been like, fuck you. Cause I really, not even a joke. I really wanted to tell someone off, and I woke up saying the thing I wanted to say to them. And I've been like, oh, okay, it was all a dream. And I'm more disappointed that I didn't get to confront someone than I am relieved, which just shows you the state of mind that I am in when I'm dreaming. I am not like the murderous kind. Though,
yeah. I have woken up saying something before in the middle of a word or something like that. So I totally get you there. But yeah, that's a cool story. Thanks.
No problem.
Just triggers me in all my dream movements.
All right. Good stuff. Kind of depressing stuff as well.
All right. So I'm going to read the final pasta for Pastatime. Creepypasta for the episode. And it is titled, also, just reminding you, Adam chose this one. It is called An Egg.
I chose this one because Robin didn't choose one for this week. So
yep.
If it sucks, I guess it's my fault.
Yep. It is called An Egg. Because eggs are terrifying, I'm sure. It goes, it was a car accident. Nothing particularly remarkable.
What is this voice you're doing? Your car accident voice?
But fatal, nonetheless. You left behind a wife and 2 children. It was a painless death. The EMTs tried their best to save you, but to no avail. Your body was so utterly shattered, you were better off. Trust me. And that's when you met me. What happened? You asked. Where am I? You died, I said matter-of-factly. No point mincing words. There was a truck and it was skidding. Yup, I said. I died? Yup, but don't feel bad about it. Everyone dies. You look around. There was nothingness, just you and me. What is this place? You asked. Is this the afterlife? More or less, I said. Are you God? You asked. Yep, I'm God. So matter-of-factly. My kids? My wife? What about them? Will they be all right? That's what I like to see, I said. You just died, and your main concern is for your family. That's good stuff right there. You looked at me with fascination. To you, I didn't look like God. I just looked like some man, some vague authority figure, more of a grammar school teacher than the Almighty. Don't worry, I said. They'll be fine. Your kids will remember you as perfect in every way. They didn't have time to grow contempt for you. Your wife will cry on the outside, but will be secretly relieved.
Whoa.
To be fair, your marriage was falling apart. If it's any consolation, she'll feel very guilty for feeling relieved.
Oh, good.
Oh, you said. So what happens now? Do I go to heaven or hell or something? Neither, I said. You'll be reincarnated. Ah, so the Hindus are right. What the fuck? All the religions are right in their own way. Walk with me. You followed along as we strolled in the void. Where are we going? Nowhere in particular. It's just nice to walk while we talk. So what's the point then? You asked. When I get reborn, I'll just be a blank slate, right? A baby? So all my experiences and everything I did in this life won't matter? Not so! You have within you all the knowledge and experiences of all your past lives. You just don't remember them right now. This seems like a very, I don't know, religion heavy one.
It was called an egg, which is why I picked it, because it didn't seem so serious.
Yeah. I stopped walking and took you by the shoulders. Your soul is more magnificent, beautiful, and gigantic than you can possibly imagine. A human mind can only contain a tiny fraction of what you are. It's like sticking your finger in a glass of water to see if it's hot or cold. You put a tiny part of yourself into the vessel, and when you bring it back out, you've gained all the experiences it had. You've been a human for the last 34 years, so you haven't stretched out yet and felt the rest of your immense consciousness. If we hung out here for longer, you'd start remembering everything, but there's no point doing that between each life. How many times have I been reincarnated then? Oh, lots. Lots and lots, and into lots of different lives. This time around, you'll be a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD.
I like this non-cyclical time
Yes.
reincarnation, which I've talked about before on the show.
It's
Time
timey-wimey.
isn't a straight line. It's a flat circle.
Wibbly wobbly. Wait, what? You're sending me back in time? Well, I guess technically, time, as you know it, only exists in your universe. Things are different where I come from. Where do you come from? Oh, sure, I come from somewhere else, and there are others like me. I know you'll want to know what it's like there, but you honestly won't understand. Oh, you said, a little let down. But wait, if I get reincarnated to other places in time, could I have interacted with myself at some point? Sure. Happens all the time. And with both lives only aware of their own time span, you don't even know what's happening. So what's the point of it all? Seriously? I asked. Seriously, you're asking me for the meaning of life? Isn't that a little stereotypical? What? Do people always ask that? What's the meaning of life?
I've never talked to God before, so.
Oh. Well, it's a reasonable question. I looked in your eye. The meaning of life, the reason I made this whole universe, is for you to mature. You mean mankind? You want us to mature? No, just you. I made this whole universe for you. With each new life, you grow and mature and become a larger and greater intellect. Just me? What about everyone else? There is no one else. In this universe, there's just you and me.
Holy shit.
You stared blankly at me, but all the people on Earth? All you. Different incarnations of you. Wait, I'm everyone? Now you're getting it, I said with a congratulatory slap on the back. I'm every human who ever lived? Or who will ever live, yes. I'm Abraham Lincoln. And you're John Wilkes Booth too, I added.
Oh, wow.
I'm Hitler. And you're the millions he killed. What the? This story's getting intense. I'm Jesus. And you're everyone who followed him. You fell silent. Every time you victimized someone, you were victimizing yourself. Every act of kindness you've done to yourself. Every happy and sad moment ever experienced by any human was or will be experienced by you. Why? Why do all this? Because someday you will become like me, because that's what you are. You're one of my kind. You're my child. Whoa, you said incredulous. You mean I'm a god? No, not yet. You're a fetus. You're still growing. Once you've lived every human life throughout all time, you will have grown enough to be born. So the whole universe, you said, it's just an egg of sorts, I answered. Now it's time for you to move on to your next life. And with that, I sent you on your way. It's a weird story. That one's by Andy Weir.
I really fucking like that story.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
a good concept, and it's not something that I've heard churned out like a million times before.
It is very unique. I will say that. It's a very unique idea that you are everyone.
It's a really good idea of the fact that it's like everything that you do in life is visited upon yourself in some way, shape, or form, like at some point or another. I also like the idea that to become something that's like an ascended being, and since time, like he mentions, doesn't exist anywhere but our universe, like in that sort of story that he's built out for that.
Right.
It really doesn't matter how long it would take, because time is just a construct that we use that would not be happening to a celestial being. So I think it's super fucking cool, in fact. So, good stuff.
Yeah.
Good job, Adam. I can't believe you picked that. Well, thanks, Adam. I appreciate that. So, it's also weird to think that anytime you've ever made out with someone, you're making out with yourself. It's like the universal equivalent of like pretending to make out with someone when you're like in a locker, but you have your arms just wrapped around you. You ever done that?
No.
She acts like it's the weirdest thing in the world to tell.
I can't even reach my arms that far.
Really? Nailed it.
Ow. Oh, pulled muscle.
She forgot that she had a bad arm right now. So
oh, it hurts so bad.
Either way, shout out to Andy Weir. I thought that was a great story. So good stuff. If you folks would like to suggest any creepypastas or send some your way of yours our way, email pastatime@scarish.com.
Thank you so much. So thank you to everybody who sent their pastas to us, their actual stories that they wrote.
They took the time to write a fictional piece and send it in to us, which was super fun. And the Monsters Inc. one, I think Robin sent Robin through the roof. That was super cool.
And thank you to everybody who writes these creepypastas for all of us to enjoy, because they're really good.
Indeed. So if you have a story, one more time, email pastatime@scarish.com. If you have a story that actually happened, like a true ghost story that you would like to share with us so that can go on the Storytime episodes, you can email storytime@scarish.com. If you want to reach out to us for either or, you can hit us up on our social medias. Facebook is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Twitter is @scarishpod. And Instagram is @scarishpodcast. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Those are monthly donations. Tiers start at $1. This weekend, I'll be packaging all the Nightcrawler keychains, the Fresno Nightcrawler keychains, to mail out to all our Badge of Honor patrons and above. And if you're not into the monthly donation thing, you can always go to Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast. And those are one-time donations. All your donations go to helping us upgrade our studio setup, kind of keep us going, allow us to make more merch for you folks, and have more time to kind of do what we do. And we really couldn't be here without you.
Indeed. So thank you so much to everyone who sent in stories, everyone who listened, everyone who viewed. We appreciate all of you. Sincerely, we do. So that's everything we have for Pasta Time. Number 11. Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.